Minister Melanie Joly is here to talk more about that response. Hi, Minister. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Good to see you, Rashi. Thank you.
Before I ask you more questions about what Canada plans to do, I did want to ask about the Liberal leadership, because you announced late in the week that you had ultimately decided, after reflecting, not to enter the race.
Yeah.
Is that, as you said in your statement, solely about kind of this fight against the threat coming from south of the border, or were you worried about your party's prospects?
Well, I think that I had to ask myself two questions, because I had many meetings with my key organizers, with friends, with my family, and I received a lot of support from across the country. And the first question I had to answer was, am I ready to become the first woman leader of the Liberal Party of Canada? And the answer was yes. And the second question was, am I ready to step away from my responsibilities being the Foreign Minister of Canada at a crucial time between Canada and the US? And the answer actually was no. And I can't do both. So I decided to choose my country, put my country first. And based on that, I'm going to Washington next week. And we're working on not only a plan, but really what will be our actions based on what our strategy is on the U.S.
And I do want to know more about the strategy. I guess I just want to ask again, though, because I think, you know, the question a lot of Canadians will have about who ultimately comes in and comes out is, do people want to run for the leadership of a party that is doing as poorly as yours in public opinion polling right now? Like, if there were an election tomorrow, and I know a lot can change, but if there were an election tomorrow, there are some polls that even show your seat would be competitive for other parties. So not
about Hansi
but I mean, so was LaSalle, right? 6 months ago. Who knew?
No, you can't compare. But listen,
I think that when it comes to, are you worried about the prospects for your party?
Well, first and foremost, when it comes to becoming the Prime Minister of Canada, there are three files that are really fundamental that Canadians look at, and they will see whether that person is ready to lead the country and run the government. It's the economy, it is the Canada-US relationship, and it is national unity, including Quebec. And I know well these three files. Now, when it comes to what is going to be the ballot question of the next election, it will be about Canada-US. It will be about that threat right now, and maybe the imposition of tariffs by Donald Trump, and how as a country we defend our workers, how we react to that economic coercion, and how we ultimately can stand up for Canadians.
Well, you're not doing a good job of it. You're really not. You don't stand up for us. You don't do nothing. You put us homeless. We don't have any food. We got just close the freaking borders and get rid of the drugs. And I guarantee you these tariffs will be gone. We don't want them. The U.S. doesn't want them. Just call an election and get done with it. And get the heck out of our country and don't come back.
And take your point about if those tariffs are applied, for example, the degree to which that would be on Canadians' minds when they vote. Isn't it possible also that change is the ballot question, given what has just gone on with the Prime Minister, with those two by-elections, with public opinion polling? Like, isn't that also possible?
There will be change. There will be a new leader, Rashi. So
but real change?
There will be a real change, and that's the Liberal.
Are you sure? Because the Conservative slogan is just like Justin.
Yeah, but that's their narrative.
But it's working for them.
Well, you know, now we have somebody that is coming in. But what the Conservatives are doing is...
And if it's who I think it is, if it's Mark Carney, Canada, we're screwed. We're screwed. If Mark Carney comes in, we might as well be the 51 state, because we're going to be going down faster than what we are doing now.
Praying petty politics on the back of Canadians. Because what we need to do right now, when it comes to Canada-US, it is we need to be united. We need to put the country first. Every single leader in politics right now should be putting country first.
Isn't there an argument to make, though, that the Prime Minister has not put Canadians first? I mean, ultimately, he took so long to make the decision he did that he is in a placeholder as a Prime Minister for two of the most important months, as you point out, in our country's history as far as the economy at the very least goes. Is your government in a position where they can lead on this file when we know in a few months, or as of March 10th or whatever it ends up being, the Prime Minister will no longer be in that position?
The Prime Minister took his decision. Now I'm looking forward, and we are leading. And what I'm doing is I will be leading along with Dominic LeBlanc, the Minister of Finance, our reaction to what the Americans will be doing. I'm heading to Washington next week. I've had numerous conversations with incoming secretaries, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Energy, Doug Burgum, the Border Czar, Tom Homan, the NSA. I've been in contact with him, Mark Waltz, and I speak to my friend, which is a funny friendship, but Lindsey Graham, pretty much every day. So we're doing the work, I'm doing the work, and I'll continue to do that.
So let me ask you, because
If you're doing anything, then why is half of Canada homeless? Why we got homeless people outside? Why we got a lot of people with hardly any jobs? Why do we have people going starving? But yet you guys are doing stuff for Canada? Get a life and get the heck out of Canada.
despite all those efforts, Lindsey Graham's making fun of us on Twitter, or whatever it is, X, joking about the annexation of Canada. Donald Trump's rhetoric, if it has become anything over that period of time, it's much more inflamed. It now includes using economic force to make us the quote-unquote 51st state. If all of those efforts are failing to produce a better outcome for us, why is that the case?
Because we have to have a strategy on both sides. That's the reality. And I'm the diplomat in chief of the government of the country. And my job is to have tough discussions with leaders and, folks that sometimes I don't agree with. And sometimes is to create also really good working relationships. And that's what I do.
So if these tariffs are applied as he has threatened them to be, which we don't know the case, he hasn't announced that, the specifics of it, but he's saying 25%. I was interviewing 6 economists, the top 6 economists, the chief ones for all the big banks the other day. And collectively, they said the hit to the economy, we're looking to the tunes of millions of jobs. You're looking at a 3% contraction and essentially an immediate recession. So it's in that vein, against that backdrop, I ask you about what retaliation would look like. Mm-hmm. Is your government prepared to cut off supplies of energy, for example, to the United States?
What I can tell you is everything is on the table. And that's the conversation we will have, the Prime Minister, Minister LeBlanc, and myself, with the premiers next week. And that's a conversation also I'll take to Republican senators and key Republican decision makers in Washington next week. Because this is indeed a decision that would be taken by President-elect Trump that would have devastating impacts on Canadians. And so for those who are watching us right now, it is important to understand that the threat is real and we're acting on it. And that's why
You want to act better on it? Call an election. Let's get the men back in charge. We don't need these little pussies. Oh, we're doing so much for Canada. You guys ain't doing shit for Canada. Either go to jail or get out of Canada for treason. Pick one and call an election.
calling every political leader in this country to be on board, because this is not time for division. This is not time for weakness. This is time of strength and unity.
I guess I would just add.
You guys don't even know what strength is. You're a morons. Bunch of morons. Just call an election. Just call an election. That's what Canada wants. That's what Canada needs. Call an election.
Though, if you are coming out of, because it's not just the Conservatives, it's all the opposition parties, and the issue is they're becoming even more critical because they would argue, I think, the Prime Minister has put the country in this spot by making the decisions he did when he did it. I'm not saying it's not your decision to make, obviously, but he is the leader of your party. By waiting until when he did, we're in a more vulnerable place where no one is really sure of exactly what's going to happen or what your government is going to pursue. Can you impart a sense of confidence on Canadians that your government can navigate this despite the weakened position we find ourselves in?
Let's not fall into the narrative that Canadians were looking for this, that Canadians did anything wrong to attract any form of tariff threats. That's a false narrative.
No, that's not the narrative. The narrative is the question is around the Prime Minister's decision and his timing. He had multiple opportunities to do what he did.
I've had many conversations with the Foreign Minister of Mexico, with the Foreign Minister of Denmark, with my colleague.
We don't care who you talk to. We care about Canada. Either step down and get the fuck out of the way, and call an election, or you might as well just say, Canada, you're going to the 51st state. because this is just getting ridiculous. We don't care who you talk to. Just call an election and get out of the way. Let Pierre Poilievre handle everything from now on.
In Europe, trust me, nobody was completely looking forward to everything that President-elect Trump has said since he's been elected. And by the way, he never talked about it during the elections. We're reacting to his new rhetoric. Now, we've gone through Trump 1.0 administration. We've gone through tariffs because he has imposed in the past tariffs on steel and aluminum. We had a strong response at the time. We did a dollar for dollar retaliation package, and we were very specific, very surgical how we were reacting. That's what we'll do. But at the same time, 25% on the entire Canadian economy is extremely important. So that's why we have to put everything on the table.
Okay, Minister.
This person is very delusional. Very delusional. Just call an election, go to jail for treason, and get the heck out of the way. Like and subscribe, everybody. God bless, stay warm, and we'll see you in the next one.